we begin this week with what I've been wanting to call a Barry Jenkins movie before the most part. It really is a Disney movie, but...
Get back there. Lady, where are you going?
Oh, damn song get copywritten. Hey, there was one movie that we all remember from our childhood, even if you don't visualize it, you're humming it, you're singing it. It's one of the most profound things out there. And they made the crappiest version in 2019 and then decided to hire the director of Moonlight to come do Mufasa the Lion King, a film that's supposed to be a prequel about what really happened to Mufasa. Who was he before he became the king? Who was Scar before he became a villain? Was he ever really gay? What will Rafiki do? What will these other two bring when it comes to music? Overall, Zach, they're releasing this everywhere after making damn near $1 billion for the first one in 2019. It seems like this one's not going to get there.
Not quite.
I saw one meme that said it before I get your opinion on here. They said, I think you saw it maybe. I love that Barry Jenkins is consistent and continues
with
to make
how
the
much
same
movie
amount.
his movies make, whether it's Moonlight or Mufasa.
Barry, we love you, bro. You are the GOAT. You are the reason why we'll be very nice on this movie. But Zach, kick it off.
I mean, look, there's two ways to think about this, right? Because on the one hand, I think the animation's really improved here from the 2019 Lion King movie. Characters actually emote. They have expressions. It's still not as vivid or as striking as hand-drawn animation, but I liked that this one took a small step away from the photorealism that's dominated all these Disney live-action quote-unquote remakes. It feels like they're very directly responding to criticism of that first film. I know a lot of people compared the moment when Mufasa dies in the 1994 version to the 2019 version to show just how much worse that 2019 version is. And then there's a similar moment in this film where Mufasa's father is in peril and they do that same like dramatic zoom in, but it looks better in Mufasa than it did in 2019.
It's almost like they're telling you, we know it's cool. Here, we're going to tell the joke again. Like when Norm Macdonald just stares at you, telling you, you'll get it eventually.
I'll get the timing right this time, I swear. And like, you know, this movie's got songs from Lin-Manuel Miranda, and while the songs are like good, I wouldn't say they're great. They are a clear reminder of something that was missing from Moana 2.
Mm-hmm. But would you have rather him stayed for Moana?
Maybe, yeah, because like now we're getting a version of Moana that pales in comparison to the original, and a version of Lion King that pales in comparison to the original.
Yeah. Damn. And box office wise too, because on the chat, Luna's letting me know it wasn't damn near. It was 1.6 billion. I was off 50 cents or something. This new one is not hitting that, but. Is it still? Is there merit in this movie?
So look, I think in the first half of this movie, they do a lot of things that just shoe a little bit too close to like the Lion King template for me. There's right away they kind of hit you with the, oh no, his father's gonna die in some big disaster thing. Yeah, and there's just these elements that feel really tied to the original, of elements of betrayal of families, and I don't know. But I think as the film moves along towards its back half, I started to actually enjoy the story a bit. I think this whole idea of this person who has to rise to their calling is pretty interesting here, and I don't know. It's certainly not like an incredible story, and it's no Hamlet as The Lion King is, but I thought it was mostly serviceable. It's just that it's like, it's not exciting. It's not vivid. The characters aren't that memorable. I think this is an improvement on the 2019 Lion King, but it still just really pales in comparison to the 1994 one.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of shots that people have compared, like for Moonlight, where he's always doing the front.
He loves to do that deep focus head-on shot. Yeah.
I want to pull a couple over here for what I'm talking about, but in particular, he's known for these very personal movies, and you could tell that there's like a part of Barry Jenkins that's he's trying to be like, it's still there. I literally got him saying, Mufasa's just like Chiron. I love you, my man.
Not quite.
I guess in that they're both in a movie, but I see what he means by that. You know, it wasn't his script, but it's what he's trying to do with it in terms of creating the come up of this icon that we know. And I like the idea of learning more about Mufasa, and in particular the fact that it's a whole story told to his grandkid. Because at this point, Mufasa's dead. Simba's now taken over, voiced by Donald Glover, who was fine as Simba young. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking that voice seriously at Pride Rock. I'm sorry. I am not listening to him. Beyonce may be announcing people for sure, but they now have a kid. That kid is voiced by no other than Blue Ivy, who I didn't know was her, and I think she was bad.
Yeah, she's fine in the movie.
Serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, look, she's a young, precocious kid, I guess, and serves the role. It certainly isn't the kind of like Nepo baby casting where you're like, how did she get this part? She works. Yeah.
She works in there. Here's the shots that we were talking about. We all know this iconic shot of them always looking into the mirror. Right here, you can see it as well. There's compilations of this. I swear to y'all, he does this in the movie with a CGI lion, and it's like, oh, that's cute.
It's similar to like a technique that Jonathan Demme did a lot in his films. Like if you ever watch Philadelphia, there's a lot of shots of like Hanks and Denzel Washington in that film looking directly down the barrel of the camera. And it's this thing that really makes you connect to a person because as they're delivering their lines, you're looking them directly in the eyes, even if those eyes belong to a giant cat.
And it's interesting because they do that thing like, you know those dog videos where they put the GoPro in front and you're just following the dog with their nose?
Yes.
They do those shots for the lions, and there's some where it's like, it's weird, it's different, it's new, I guess. It's not the worst thing out there because we know that they're using elements from the Avatar world. They said they went to the Avatar studio, it being under Disney. Frozen had those virtual cameras that they used for the last movie, and they kind of mixed all that technology into one. I wish I had more behind-the-scenes pictures, but it's almost like he's filming a digital movie the way you would play a PlayStation game and then save that recording with how you moved around and zoomed in. And he's doing it in this digital world where they then add more stuff after it. I wonder how much the pipeline's like MCU, where it's like he directed the voices, but how much of the visuals are him, you know? How much of that is already being made years before he comes in?
Yeah.
But story-wise, I thought it was an interesting thing to see a grandchild learn about their grandparent the same way that it kind of, like you said, is doing the circle of life thing from the first one. There's a lot of images, or I would say shots that, you know, are reminiscent of someone rescuing and picking up, and how that will be flipped out in the future. I also do think that the best characters are the least expected ones. To me, Rafiki is the standout in the movie.
Ooh, yeah, me too.
This man is accused by the two bozos, what's some faces, Timon and Pumbaa, of hijacking the film. And you know what? They're absolutely right. This man 100% stole the movie. He is the one telling the story. And in the story of Mufasa growing up after losing his parents, being found by his adoptive brother Scar, there was theories about how they were going to play it. Was Mufasa actually coming in with a lot of baggage? Did he really take a spot from a future king? He comes up scar-free, no pun, like spot-free. Like the way they end up telling the story does leave Mufasa looking well, does leave Scar looking pretty goofy. When you realize what caused Scar to become Scar, it did not work for me. But then I remembered something that was told to Scar, even though Mufasa wasn't there to hear it, but the story tells it to us. Deception is the best tool a king has. Who's telling this story if not the boy from Mufasa? I think this is propaganda, Zach, in the world of The Lion King. I think Mufasa's telling his story the wrong way and the way he wants to tell it because everyone knows that the victors tell their story, and this man's complicit in it. I think that's why he's saying a lot of parts of the story that this man wouldn't know. Also, there's one line this guy says when they finally make it to the Promised Land about the brother. We all know a person like that. Mm-hmm. I just thought Rafiki was the one who took the show easily.
Yeah. The movie does sort of come a bit more alive when the characters meet up with a younger Rafiki, right? Like he just brings an energy that I think most of the Lion characters are not vivid enough. Like you get a little bit of it from what was the bird's name? Is it Zazu? Yeah,
But they
yeah.
switched Zazu too. Zazu's no longer
John
voiced
Oliver.
by John Oliver, but
Yeah.
Preston Nyman.
Yeah, because it's also like a younger version of Zazu, and it feels like the movie kind of needs those characters who are a little sillier, a little broader, to feel like an animated movie, right? Like otherwise, it's just a little close to the vest in a weird way.
What'd you think of the main two voices? Because I saw the entire movie with the idea that the Brit was going to be the Brit and the American. And they got Calvin doing a British accent and Aaron dropping his. He plays Mufasa, even though my man's got those striking eyes like Scar does. And it's Calvin who's playing with the voice of what would eventually be Scar. And it's funny because I love my man. They cause him to go from this original voice to cosplaying. Before you even get to the cartoon, who played, what's his name? Someone played Scar in the first one.
Is it Jeremy Irons?
It's not Jeremy. Jeremy Irons played him in the original. But before he gets to Jeremy Irons, it's what's his name, who's also in the Doctor Strange movies, 12 Years a Slave.
Oh, Chiwetel
Ejiofor. He starts like mimicking his voice from the 2019 one, and then just past him and goes to Jeremy Irons. It's funny, and he does it all in song. I think that's what does it, is that he's this chill cub the entire time, and then his heart gets broken for the, I don't know, too fast of a storyline in my opinion, and that's the flip. And to me, it happened way too fast. We've had Transformers this year that's also doing a very similar thing. A lot of these big stories are trying to showcase you that origin moment, and it didn't fully work for me.
No.
And I felt like it ended up helping Mufasa more, which is why I'm saying this is Mufasa's propaganda story.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's one of those things where the character needs to end in a place, but you don't necessarily buy the journey he takes to get there.
Exactly.
It's a little expedited a little bit too quickly. But I don't know. It feels in a lot of ways written backwards because they're trying to get to the story of Scar as much as they are getting to the story of Mufasa.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's elements that I appreciated and at moments where I felt the swell of emotion that they were trying to go for, but it's all just a bit muted because like I feel myself not focusing on the right thing because the visuals are not designed in a way that I want my eye to catch them, you know? They just sort of make my eyes glaze over a bit.
It's not a bad story. It's not a bad director. This is just not the way to tell it. I laughed at the end when it wrapped up where I was like, are they going to make this into an animated movie? Like, is that the next thing?
Right.
You're just going to inverse it back. But people have been talking about like Barry Jenkins having made this role and, you know, people want to give him a hard time and whatever else. I get it. In between, people forget what he's made. And he's made sure to tell people like, I made After Sun while working on this. Like, he's produced stuff. He released the Underground Railroad. Also, All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt, which is right here. Like, he's letting you know, like, I wasn't just not doing anything. This is going to give me the opportunity to make who knows what's next. And I think a lot of people are, like, worried that he did one for them really quick, wondering where was his. Clearly, y'all haven't seen the Underground Railroad because it didn't release in theaters, and Prime really botched it. But that was a big reason why he went and took the Disney script, because of what Prime botched with this. This was his passion project. This is where you already have... And they didn't even got Pierre in here. Pierre's in this one.
Yeah.
He's got some of the best performance. This was shut out awards-wise, everything. But he got to make it. In my mind, he already did his. This was his next big jump to see what he could do in this realm. And I do think we're going to see a lot of filmmakers in this. I think him working in the Mufasa like VR world, I think the indie version of that was what your boy did within that Travis Scott movie.
Which one are we talking about?
Trash Humpers.
Shoot. Harmony Korine.
That he shot in infrared. What was it? Agro
Drift.
That's the most indie version of this, but I think we're going to be seeing a lot of movies that are not live action. Avatar. We give the pass as the big blockbuster that deserves it, but I think we're going to be seeing a lot more animated type live action films where you're not seeing the actors through and through. But I mean, I'm glad he got to make his passion project. Glad he got to make a big movie. And if this is the blemish, if you want to call it that, sure, I guess. I did not end up hating it. I'm still humming some of the songs. I don't think they're as good. Nowhere near as good as the originals. They're very childish. It's a very childish movie. They have a potty break halfway through.
Right.
A character breaks the fourth wall and tells you to go to the bathroom. Bit of songs like Bye Bye and Brother, like I
The
do
brother one
think
worked
that
for me.
they catch on, especially for kids, and I think it suffices. It's not making the most money right now, but it's also not bombing. We still have Christmas. We still have a lot more weeks where not too much is coming out, and we always complain about Disney. Oh, Elemental flopped, and then what happens? Right? We it just takes some time for these movies to make money. It's not making it as fast as the first one, but hey, I'm hoping that it's able to open up even more stuff for Barry Jenkins.
That's the main
now
thing,
that
right?
he's done something this big.
Yeah, and hopefully any financial shortcomings that happen to this movie are not ones that are blamed on Barry Jenkins. That would be the worst outcome of this. But yeah, I'm inclined to believe, like you, that like hopefully he can take some of the lessons he learned on this movie and apply them to his own films. And you know, I don't think we're going to get a Barry Jenkins movie set fully in a virtual reality quite so soon. But maybe there'll be elements that influence how he makes movies or gives us an interesting mix of elements.
Now he knows the tools.
Yeah,
which is the most important.
Exactly.
Where are you going?
I'm probably at 2.5 on Mufasa, The Lion King.
I'm going 3 so far. Mixing the music. There was one shot of the lion when Mufasa falls and he's wet. Dude, they must have filmed a dog because the way the muscles moved, I was like, I don't.
Right.
That's way too real. You guys are getting really close on some of these shots. Hey, we can go either way with this, bro. 2.5, 3.
Right. I think the thing that I ultimately do that gives me some like hope, particularly for Barry, is a lot of times you see these filmmakers take on big studio projects and it may as well be directed by an anonymous person. Like you see no evidence of their vision, of their voice. This is a Barry Jenkins movie. It's not.
Thank you.
I'm not going to say it's straight up Moonlight, but he's trying things here. And I appreciate that. Like you can sense him behind the director's chair.
Overall, would you recommend people leaving the house for it? Or wait for Disney Plus?
I think you could probably wait for Disney Plus on this one, especially when there's another kids movie in theaters right now I enjoyed a little bit more.